Hi, welcome to Essential IT and Security Skills. I'm Charles Redmond, Master Trainer, here to guide you through the essentials that you are going to need to land the job that you are looking for. In this series, we're going to talk about essential PC skills. I'm going to walk you through everything from software to hardware. Most people know me as a cybersecurity expert. Well, I couldn't have gotten there without learning the basics first. That's what this series is going to do. And then we'll move on in some later series with some more advanced concepts and techniques. But remember, it all starts with the basics. It starts right here, the essential PC skills. In this segment, we're going to talk about installing your Windows environment. You'll learn how to identify and implement pre-installation tasks with Windows, install and upgrade Windows XP, Windows Vista, and Windows 7, troubleshoot some installation problems, and identify and implement post-installation tasks. The process of installing and upgrading Windows is accomplished in three main steps. Step 1, prepare for installation. Step 2, the actual install. And step 3, perform some post-installation tasks. First, let's deal with how to prepare for your installation. You'll need to identify hardware requirements, verify hardware and software compatibility, decide whether you're going to do a clean install or an upgrade, make sure to back up your data, select an installation method, identify the partition and file system to use, determine the computer's network role, decide on a language and locale settings, and then plan for your post-installation tasks. Starting with the hardware requirements, you'll need to understand the core resources that are available on the PC, like the CPU, the RAM, and any free hard disk space. You'll also need to take note of any hardware requirements like a video adapter, the display itself, and any additional storage devices that are going to be required. Next, you'll verify your hardware and software compatibility. Be sure to look at the Windows logoed product list. It used to be known as the HLC. These products are tested and verified to work with your operating systems. However, products that aren't listed may also be supported. You'll just have to check with that specific vendor's website. There are several sources you can go to for hardware compatibility information. The Setup Wizard is a good first stop to do a quick check for your hardware. There's also the free utility called the Upgrade Advisor that can be run on the system to see if the hardware and software will work with the newer version of Windows you wish to install. Microsoft also provides a website that you can search by model and number of hardware, and Windows 7 has the Compatibility Center. And of course, you can always check the manufacturer's website to verify that the hardware and software are compatible with the operating system that you wish to install. Here's a look at the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. And here's a look at the Windows Compatibility Center. If you see this screen, it indicates that the software you're trying to install may not be compatible with the operating system. This is a good opportunity to check the vendor's website. Next, you'll need to decide whether you're going to do a clean install or an upgrade. A clean install is usually done on an empty hard disk or one that you've reformatted to be clean. An upgrade is when you're going to install a new operating system on top of the old one. This is often the preferred method because applications won't need to also be reinstalled. This is also a good opportunity to decide whether you are going to need to or want to multi-boot your system. Or in other words, run more than one operating system. With Windows XP, you can run two operating systems on the same partition. However, with Windows Vista and Windows 7, it requires you to put each installation on a different partition. To make sure you have enough hard drive space on a multi-booted Windows Vista or Windows 7 machine, you can use the disk management to shrink the volume and create another partition. There are multiple ways for you to perform your installation. You shouldn't think that you're locked in to only using a CD-ROM or DVD or USB. Windows can also be installed over a network or using an unattended installation. You can also perform an installation using an imaging tool like Norton's Ghost or PowerQuest Drive Image. And if you're in a networked environment, Windows deployment services are available via Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2. Next, determine how to back up your data. If all your data is saved via a central server, however, if data exists on the local drive, you're going to need to back that up via a network server, a DVD or a USB, or possibly an external hard drive. So the basic choices that we're going to cover here is installing via an optical disk. That's the preferred method for the CompTIA A+, or over the network. That's more for CompTIA Network Plus technicians. So first we need to determine the partition. This is done when the drive is first created. Next, determine the file system. It's recommended that NTFS is used whenever possible. Then determine your computer's network role. Is it a standalone, part of a work group, on a domain, or possibly a Windows 7 home group or home network environment? Then decide your computer's language and locale, and plan for any of your post-installation tasks like installing service packs or hotfixes, updating any required drivers, and configuring the network settings. Next, we'll walk through the installation and upgrade process. Understand that you have several upgrade paths within the Windows environment. For instance, you can upgrade from Windows 98, Windows ME, Windows NT 4.0 as long as it's Service Pack 5 and above, Windows 2000 Pro, and XP Home. The A+ examination expects you to know and understand the basic hardware requirements for each of the Windows operating systems. Here's a chart to help you out. It's always a good idea to run the Upgrade Advisor. This provides a list of devices and software known to have issues with Windows XP. You can find this on the Microsoft website or on the installation CD itself. So the first step is to insert the bootable CD-ROM into your optical media drive. And make sure to set the boot order in the BIOS to look for the CD-ROM first. You'll be asked to go through some registration steps. This is an optional step. However, you'll also have to activate your new Windows installation. Remember, it's mandatory within 30 days, and if not activated, it will be disabled. The upgrade paths to Microsoft Vista are a bit more complicated. For instance, if you're upgrading from Windows 2000 to Windows Vista, it requires you to do a clean installation. However, if you're upgrading from a version of Windows XP like Professional or another version of Windows Vista, you must start the upgrade process from within the older operating system. Here's a handy chart to help you keep it all straight. And again, remember, the A+ certification expects you to know and understand the hardware requirements of each version of the Windows operating system. The upgrade path to Windows 7 is available only from Windows Vista. All XP editions require a clean installation to upgrade to Windows 7. However, if you already have Windows 7 and you're just upgrading to a higher edition, you can use the Windows Anytime upgrade feature. The basic hardware requirements for Windows 7 is at least a 1 GHz or faster processor, 1 GB or more of RAM, at least 16 GB of available hard space, and DirectX 9 graphics. There also may be some additional requirements for some games and performance options, like a video card with at least 128 megs of graphics memory, DirectX 10 compatibility, and if some of your applications require you to run in Windows XP mode, you're going to need an additional gigabyte of RAM and at least 15 gigs of available hard disk space. Windows 7 32-bit editions can handle up to 32 processor cores, whereas 64-bit editions can handle up to 256. With Windows 7 Professional, Ultimate, and Enterprise, they can handle 2 physical CPUs. But Windows 7 Starter and Home Premium only support 1 physical CPU. Now let's look at some of the pre-upgrade steps. Again, remember to check the hardware and software compatibility, back up the data and configuration files, perform any required spring cleaning. Just get rid of anything that you don't need on your newly installed system. Perform a disk scan and defragmentation. Perform a virus scan and disable or remove virus checking software. This could cause problems during the upgrade or installation process. Be sure to disable the CMOS virus checking and be prepared to do a clean install. Upgrades don't always work due to compatibility issues. So, to do a clean install of Windows XP, we're going to start by placing the bootable CD-ROM in the drive bay. Remember, XP is going to walk you through a textural mode first. This is where you're going to partition the drive and choose your file system. You'll be greeted by a blue screen. This is the beginning of the setup process. It'll give you a nice welcome, and since we're doing a clean install, we'll just go ahead and press enter. The first step is to identify the partition and the partition size in which we want to perform our installation. Then we'll choose our file system. NTFS is the preferred file system for the Windows operating system. After this, Windows will now put us into a graphical mode. This is where we're going to enter our product key, give our computer a name and an administrative password. We'll configure any required network settings, and then we wait for it to finish. The beginning of the graphical mode looks something like this. You see, we've completed the collection of information, any dynamic updating that needed to happen, and we are now preparing for the rest of the installation of Windows. So first, we'll enter our product key, give our PC a name and an administrative password, and then identify any network settings that may be required. Now, we wait. And we're done. Next, let's walk through a Windows Vista or Windows 7 clean installation process. With Windows Vista and Windows 7, there's no more textural mode. It's all in a graphical installation process. There's no more text mode. It's all presented to you in a graphical installation. First, we place our bootable DVD into the drive bay. After we reboot and the system spins back up, we're welcomed by the Windows 7 and Windows Vista splash screen. This is where we will set our language and our locale. Now we're ready to begin the installation process. Just click the blue arrow. At this step, you're going to be asked to enter your product key. The product key for all editions of Windows 7 and Windows Vista come on the disk. With Windows Vista, leaving the product key blank allows you to install a 30-day trial of any edition of Windows Vista. However, with Windows 7, if you leave the product key blank, you can only install the trial version of the edition named on the box. Next, you'll be asked to agree to the EULA, or the End User License Agreement. And if you're installing over a copy of another operating system, you can get the option to install or upgrade copy. From here, you'll want to go to the partitioning screen. Just simply press F6 to load the drivers for the hard drive controller if necessary. And then we wait. Now it's time to give our computer a name, an administrative password, and we get to choose our profile picture. We'll also configure any automatic update settings we wish to have, set the time zone, and the network security level. Maybe a kitty cat. Give our computer a name. Tell it to perform automatic updates. Let it know what time zone we live in. And choose a network. You're welcome. So as I mentioned earlier, using the installation disk isn't the only way to perform an installation. We can script some of these actions or automate them, if you will. We can create this automated installation by finding the scripting tools in the Setup Manager. It allows for the creation of text files that we call answer files used for unattended installations. Simply put your disk in the machine, navigate to Support, and then Tools, and then Deploy. Find the Setup Manager file and extract it. Once extracted, you'll go through a series of graphical options where you'll choose to do either an unattended setup, a sysprep setup, or a remote installation. Then it will ask you what version of Windows that you're trying to install and whether I want to perform a fully automated or partially automated installation. Then it'll give me the option as to where to store this installation file. Again, you'll be asked to accept the EULA, or the End User License Agreement, and enter a product key. You'll also be given the option to run any additional commands. From here, just like an attended installation, you'll also have to configure the computer name, the name you want to assign to your PC. With Windows Vista and Windows 7, they also can be automated using the Automated Installation Kit. However, it is a somewhat more complicated tool that replaced the Setup Manager and really most commonly used for new rollouts over the network. The process is very similar. You're welcomed by the setup screen, and then you'll walk through the list of components that you wish to install. For larger environments, it's recommended that you do what's called disk cloning. You're going to create an exact copy of a drive with a fully installed and configured operating system. And then you'll deploy that clone over the network. Prior to cloning the operating system, you'll probably want to run SysPrep. That's going to sanitize any unique settings on the computer, and it will help create an automated installation that requires select user input to customize for each machine. Here's a look at what the SysPrep tool looks like. Network installation is ideal for deploying Windows to multiple workstations across the network without having to physically touch and visit each PC individually. If you're using Windows Server 2003, you'll use the remote installation services. In Windows 2008 and 2008 R2, you'll use Windows deployment services. To perform network installations, your clients must be capable of using the pre-boot execution environment, or the PXE boot. PXE uses multiple protocols such as DHCP so the computer can boot from a network location and get an IP address. If your system is capable, PXE should be enabled in the BIOS by default. However, the boot order must be set to specify a PXE or network boot. It is important to remember, however, that not every NIC will support PXE. Here's what your screen will look like when performing a PXE boot. Next, let's take a look at some of the troubleshooting that our installations might have. For instance, you may get an error that says the RAID array is not detected. Usually the solution for this is to get the driver disk for your RAID controller and then run setup again. If you see an error that says no boot device present, you may have a bad startup disk or your CMOS settings are not set to boot from the CD. If it says Windows setup requires some amount of space, you'll need to verify that you have enough space available for the installation of the operating system. If you get a not ready error on your optical drive, you'll need a new disk or possibly a faster drive. A stop error, also known as the blue screen of death, after reboot at the end of the textual mode, usually points to some sort of hardware incompatibility. You could have hardware incompatibility, or for more non-critical hardware errors, perhaps you just need to install the correct drivers. If it tells you that it can't read the cab files, check your installation media for scratches. You may have to replace the optical disk, or you could try creating an ISO file onto a hard drive and installing from there. If you experience lockups during the install, try unplugging the system and restarting it. If you're experiencing lockups with your hard drive or optical drive, you may want to try another disk. One way to check and verify exactly what's going on with the install process to help your troubleshooting is you can check the setuplog.txt or the setupappy.log. The setuplog.txt, it tracks the complete installation process and logs success or failures of file copying, registry updates, reboots, and so on. The setupappy.log only tracks the hardware installed. Windows 7 and Windows Vista create about 20 log files each, organized by the phase of the installation that it's in. Each phase creates a setup ERR log. This log tracks any errors that occurred during that phase of the installation. After you've successfully installed your Windows operating system, it's now time for your post-installation tasks. This is where we're going to apply any patches or service packs that may be required. We're going to update our drivers. At this point, we restore all of the user data that we backed up prior, and then retire the old computer. To do this in Windows XP, we will use the Files and Settings Transfer Wizard. We'll start by running the FSTW on the new computer and create a wizard disk. And then we'll run that wizard disk on the old computers. Here's a look at what the Files and Settings Transferred Wizard looks like. Remember, we're setting it up on the new computer first. And then we'll create a disk. You'll have the option as to what type of disk you'll wish to create, whether it's a floppy or an optical drive or maybe a USB. You can also use a direct cable connection. Now we'll go to the old computer and then select what we wish to transfer. Settings only, files only, or both files and settings. We'll also have the option to customize some of the transfers. In Windows Vista and Windows 7, you have a similar tool. It's called the User State Migration tool. It requires a Windows domain, and it is extremely useful for migrating many users at a time. You can also use the Windows Easy Transfer. It retains all the form and function of the File Setup Transfer Wizard from Windows XP. However, now you have the option that you can use a special Easy Transfer cable to migrate via USB. To use the Windows Easy Transfer, we'll select Start a New Transfer. Now it's time to decide what we're going to do with the old drive. 3 basic principles should always be followed. First, you'll want to migrate in a secure environment. That makes sure that the system that you're working on remains safe and secure. Next, we need to remove any data remnants from the drive, and then decide how we are going to dispose of the old hardware, whether it's to recycle it or donate it somewhere. If you're going to recycle or dispose of the old PC, remember it's possible that sensitive data is on that hard drive. It must be sanitized before it leaves the secure environment. Even data in the recycle bin remains on your storage device until new data overwrites it. So we'll want to use a software utility that wipes the drive with a pattern of 1s and 0s. We can perform either low-level formatting, which writes zeros to every location on the disk, or just data sanitizing, which will wipe only the free space on the drive. A free tool that I use is called CC Cleaner. You can perform all of these tasks, like disposing of old files and then sanitizing the disk, all in the same interface. Remember, if you're going to recycle the old PC, don't throw it away in the regular garbage. It does contain hazardous materials that are bad for the environment. And of course, you can consider donating your old PC to an organization that refurbishes them and reuses older PCs in schools and senior centers. There you have it. It's pretty simple. Remember, everything starts with the basics. Once you have these understood, everything gets a whole lot easier. If you have any questions or even just a comment, feel free to leave them below, and I do read each and every one of them. I'll see you next time.